Before showing this video of techniques and exercises and some old films, I would first like to talk about the origins of the Ellis schools of traditional Aikido, because many people ask me where did I start, how did I start, and what was my reasons. A lot of people would think that perhaps because of my dedication, and now I've been doing Aikido for 37 years, they think perhaps I was a dedicated student from childhood. I was not. Initially, I did all athletics at school, and then after leaving school I started cycle racing, and I did 6 years cycle racing for the Middlesex Road Club, and I was in the first team. Won quite a lot of events and did very, very successfully at road racing, and I really enjoyed that. And it was only when I met a young lady whose brother, who was 14 years of age, wanted me to take him to the local judo club because he didn't want to go on his own, and almost reluctantly I took him along and sat and watched, and it fascinated me, and I also joined with him. He didn't stay very long, but I stayed, and I was doing judo under Kenneth Williams, who was the #1 student to Kenshiro Abbe Sensei, who was the #1 exponent of judo outside of Japan. He was 8th Dan judo, 6th Dan kendo, 6th Dan karate, and 6th Dan aikido, 6th Dan kyudo. He was a modern day samurai warrior. Sensei was a great teacher. We all used to go to his club in East London and train there, and also at mainly at the hut, which was the headquarters of Aikido. So Sensei showed some Aikido, and we were very, very impressed, and he progressed from there, teaching just a little after the judo classes had finished. So then several students were selected to train in Aikido, and you must understand there was no other Aikido in Great Britain anywhere at this time. It was all at this place called the Hut. Now the Hut was the name of a little old country pub just on the outskirts of London, and in the back, in the gardens of this pub, was this big old shed. It looked nothing from the outside, but inside it was absolute magic. This was the headquarters, or the Budo Center, because here judo, karate, kendo, and aikido were taught. Well, I studied very, very hard, and I didn't find judo breakballing a problem, but I found aikido, the softness and the rolling, didn't come easy to me. One of the finest exponents of ukemi that I've ever seen was Derek Eastman, who was the principal coach at our Basingstoke headquarters. If ever there was a natural, it was him. I didn't find it so easy. I took a tent and slept under canvas on the Brecon Beacons, which is a low-lying mountain area in South Wales, or Mid Wales I should say, and I practiced breakballing every day for a week, and at the end of a week I was pretty sore, but my ukemi had improved tremendously. So then I carried on as a very serious student, a very dedicated student, and Mr. Williams asked me to be assistant to him, and Kenshiro Abbe Sensei made him the national coach for Aikido, and I became assistant national coach, a position I held for 15 years under Mr. Williams. And Aikido was very tightly knotted into this unit for 15 years. And there's so much teaching about harmony and spirit, and this understanding that we are supposed to have unique to ourselves in Aikido. But there's more divisions in Aikido than I believe in any other martial art. There's so many breakaway groups, there's so many divisions, it just amazes me. And at this time, we thought that Aikido in Japan was so tightly knotted together under Abbe Sensei. And then we heard about all the breakups of and divisions in Japan in Aikido with Tohei and others. It just amazed us. We didn't expect this from the Japanese. We really believed that they were above all this, and in fact, they were far worse than we were. The time came when, after studying Aikido for about 3 years, and I was first Dan, and I was graded by Nakazone Sensei. During the early years, Abbe Sensei taught us Aikido, and his Aikido was a form of Aikijitsu. It was the pre-war Aikido, which was what I call true Aikido, in as much that it was self-defense and almost fighting art, as opposed to today where it's graceful. And I know there is some good Aikido about, but there is a lot of bad Aikido. And what I call bad Aikido is where it looks absolutely beautiful to watch, simply because two people are practicing together, and they practice daily, almost like a couple of dancers who teach each other a routine and follow that routine. And then Tori takes his student, and Yuki follows and trots around him, and he's thrown and makes a beautiful yukimi when the time is right. And it looks very effective. And outside, it just would not work. And I like to think that all the techniques that I teach, and my style of Aikido hasn't changed very much from the old days. So I suppose, looking at my style of Aikido, a lot of modern day purists would throw up their hands in horror and say, good God, that's not Aikido. But I didn't learn Aikido. This is the important thing. I did not learn Aikido to learn to dance or to do yoga. If I'd wanted yoga, I would have gone and done yoga. If I'd wanted to dance, I would have gone to a dancing school. I wanted Aikido as a form of self-defense. Of course, there are many other factors in Aikido that are very, very nice to learn. But initially, I think everyone who does Aikido does it for self-defense. What you find out from it at a later date is entirely up to you as a person, what your needs and requirements are. As time went on, Mr. Williams said he was getting many people who were interested in Aikido, particularly from judo clubs and karate clubs, and the students wanted to see this. And it was suggested that Derek Eastman and myself travel around teaching Aikido. So this is what we did. We gave up our jobs and we started to travel. We went all up the north of England, up the Midlands, down to Wales, Scotland. We just travelled everywhere. And most of the time it was really hard because a lot of people just did not want to know. It was trying to be a salesman selling something that people didn't want. And obviously, as it started to promote itself, it became easier. It was becoming a known product then, so then people started to want to see Aikido, and we were giving demonstrations. And it was during a visit to the Midlands that we made a big breakthrough. Derek and I were the first Aikido teachers to teach Aikido into the further education system in Great Britain, which was one big breakthrough. And then, of course, you can quote this when you're offering Aikido. You say, oh, well, it's been taught in the further education system in Nottingham. Now, during this time, because we didn't have any money, we were just working lads. Derek and I had to get jobs. So the object of the exercise was just get a job for a few days to earn enough money to keep ourselves. Some areas we went to, they could afford to keep us. So we would stay with the students or the instructor. They would pay us a small fee for teaching, and then we'd move on to another area. And if there was no Aikido in that area, we had no choice but to get a little job for a few days. And we would do anything from road sweeping. And road sweeping was great because as we swept the roads, we used to wear like a little city gents bowler hat, which was quite funny and caught a lot of attention. And once we travelled outside the London area, particularly up north, the girls just loved the London accent, or the southern accent perhaps. And it was there that we started to find ways of getting food cheaply or for free an accommodation for free wherever possible. And we did this for a long, long time, and one of the jobs we took was, apart from road sweeping, we took another one, working in a morgue. We had to go for this funeral directive, we had to go to the morgue and collect the bodies. And we worked there for, I think that was our longest job, we worked there for about 2 weeks. And he caught me in the chapel of rest with a young lady, and all I was doing was laying her to rest, but unfortunately she was alive, and he was not impressed about this.
Do you make sense now? Positive and negative? Or... Okay. And... Okay, so Brad, you can do the same thing. Do the same. Okay. So, you know, we've got enough up here on that thing. Okay. So now we've made exercise again. Absolutely. Okay? Absolutely. What's important is your body distance. A minute ago, you were doing Ikido, and what I'm a little bit closer perhaps than others, because I was taught by Mr. Williams, Mr. Ellis, both of them were students of Abbe Sensei, and Abbe Sensei was also there. And what he taught was, he used to call it judo self-defense. He never called it Aikido. In 55, he called it that, 59, or no, 57. So, yeah, please catch us, yeah. So here, you know, everything we do starts to come that little bit closer. And this is how, if you see early films of Ellis Sensei, that's how Aikido was. It's nice to have good movement, and you get this good movement, then you can start to move. But you must all go to places. Otherwise, you get a problem with somebody else. Oh, they actually hit you. Yeah, coming to here. Yeah. One is, yeah, coming up. Yeah, we practice. That's better. Okay, we can practice all like we do. Now punch in. Yeah, come on. Here. What?
Oh, we've seen that before, yeah? You see what I'm on about?
Hey?
You understand what I've been saying?
No, yeah.
Right.
Now punch in again. One. Here. Now punch again. One. Now walk back. And two. There, look at me. You two boys. Yeah? If that comes into us, we can be taken. At the same time, we wish to make good defence. If you hit the gun, you don't hit it. You take it out. Yeah? Okay, so we're nice and easy now. Coming nice and easy. One, cross your hands. Here, forearm. Walk in and please make backwards your kick. So, we'll start there. Coming the second time, here, this way. One, come in here, and just turn it here. Behind. Okay, do I understand? So, two, one backwards you give me, for a punch. You will then do forward you give me from. That's right. So, 2 techniques. Always. Now, take it out, and here.
Yeshiva was the founder of Aikido as we know it today. This is one of the downgrade or black belt certificates presented to me by Nakazono Sensei in 1960. It was authorized and signed by Professor Morihei Yeshiva at the Aikikai headquarters in Tokyo. This is one of the few certificates of its kind in Europe. Very few certificates were ever signed by Morihei Yeshiva and forwarded on outside of Japan. This is the Certificate of Coaching Award presented to Henry Ellis by the Martial Arts Commission in 1990. This is a photograph of Professor Yeshiva, and sitting on his left is Koichi Tohei, and next to Koichi Tohei is Abbe Sensei, 6th Dan, who was also my teacher in the early 1960s. On Master Yeshiva's right is his son, Kishimura Yeshiva, and on his far right is Master Noro, who was then 4th Dan, who was also my teacher in the very early 1960s. This is Master Tadashi Abbe, one of the most feared teachers ever in Aikido. He was my teacher in the late 1950s and based in France. He was a man who was always fighting and enjoyed nothing more than to fight with the real knife. This is my all-time favorite master, Master Misuro Nakazono, 6th Dan Aikido, the official representative from the Aikikai in Japan to Europe. I was assistant to Nakazono Sensei on every visit he made to Great Britain. During my visit to the United States in 1992, I was very pleased to make his acquaintance again. He is now retired and living in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I went to visit him and spent 3 hours just chatting, and he gave me 2 books that he had written, which he signed and presented them to me. We still have great respect for each other after all these years. I hadn't seen Nakazono Sensei for 31 years. Kenshiro Abbe, 8th Dan Judo, 6th Dan Aikido. Abbe Sensei was my first teacher for both Judo and Aikido. In my early years I studied karate under Matsuki Harada, who was then 5th Dan, who is now teaching in North Africa. This samurai sword is a 16th century Shinto blade. This sword was presented to me by Kenshiro Abbe Sensei in 1962. This is a photograph of the Dan grades at the Basingstoke School of Aikido. Sitting on the far right of the photograph is David Warren, 2nd Dan. On his right is myself, with Mr. Eastman sitting on my right. Mr. Eastman is 3rd Dan. On Mr. Eastman's right, Andy Lyons, 2nd Dan. As we were talking in the 50s and early 60s, although we use a lot of Japanese terminology, a lot of Japanese people, in fact most, wouldn't even understand what we were talking about. So we tend to stick with the second form and the third form. This is second form. Okay. Don't take your body over here. What we're doing, this technique is to take here, but not the whole of your body, and then you've got to come back in again. You haven't got that kind of time. And when you take, don't put your hand out here to the face. You'll come hungry. As you take, be clear. Right. From here, somebody just coming in punching this way. If you're good looking like me, you must look after your features. Look at that, nearly 50 years of teaching, still as handsome as I was when I was a boy. Okay? So, very slow. From here, just place your hand on the shoulder there. There. See my hand? So as he starts to come in, just move to one side. Place here. Don't try and catch. You must not catch. People taking knife, a lot of more experienced ones of you know what I'm talking about, but for some of you, a lot of people do this with knife. They want to take the wrist here to control it immediately. This is impossible. And most people, the blade is upside down so it can cut out. I have seen this in my experience 3 times. I have seen it happen. Never do this. Here, center. If you take here and then slide down, but you see his posture here. This is his weak direction here. And if you just push down slightly, down, and then in. If you push down, you'll get this. If you push down and in. Do you understand? Down and in. Come on. Okay. So, very slowly, very slowly. Okay. From here, turn, up, right. Just with the fist, just pair up and try. Just once more. One, bam.
Projection, 5 techniques.
Pair up and try, please.
Were the first techniques you learnt at the hut. Shihonagi, Kodagish, Harimanagi, Kaitanagi, Tenchinagi. Tenchinagi was just determined as heaven and earth technique. Tenchin. Nagi, I guess, is the one who's coming into you to attack you. Tenchinagi is probably the most favourite of the techniques we used to practice, mainly because when you were green belt, the downgrades were quite hard with you. And it was the one technique, what seems to level everybody out, is Tenchinagi. From green belt on, you can take a downgrade out. If you're a first dan, you can take a second dan out. But the difference is there go next. But it's a nice, enjoyable technique. Yeah, that's not working at all now, is it? Tenchinagi. Jason. Tenchinagi. Yeah. Where's Peter? Oh, Peter. Kenshiro, Abbe, was from here. One. Here. Tadashi Abbe was here. Nakazono. Noro Sensei. All Tenchinagi here is zigzag. All Tenchinagi is using your hip. All Tenchinagi is heaven and earth. Without that, all those three elements, there is no Tenchinagi. Practice your Tenchinagi. Can you bring on Mr. Al? Hello? Ah. Hello? Is this going to work? Yes, maybe. Maybe here. Not every technique was taught to us by the Japanese. Do a Mr. David Warren technique. Again. One more. One more. A bit harder. That's it. Good. Thank you, Al. Thank you, Al. Mr. Al, as we haven't seen him for about 5 years, and he came over from the USA, especially to attend this event. So he was our first American Air Forceman to be graded first dan. He practiced for, I think it was 4 years at the hut, and he got his dan grade in front of, I think it was about 400 people in the Air Force who'd flown in from all over the place. And the colonels all said it was the first time they'd seen a display that was carried out by the pupils rather than the master. I actually was his Yuki, and he got his dan grading on that day. So we are pleased to see Mr. Al. Yeah, and I'm glad to see he has slimmed down from what he was, but not too much. Lastly, can I just ask, we spoke about movement, about spiralling, about niceties of Aikido, but also if you are young you must also have good reaction. And so sometimes you must train for reaction. Thank you. Mr. Brad is quite a high grade in karate. And as far as I remember, I don't think he was ever beaten in a contest in karate. He was disqualified, but not beaten. Okay, I will finish now because I'm running late, and Mr. Philip Smith will take over, and I hope you give him as much support as you've given me. Thank you very much. Okay? Thank you.